reason why I continue to do, like, I see it as just being an ally to the communities I live with. I'm comfortable even speaking about this now because they asked me to. There was a lot of really genuine exchange and dialogue between myself and the leaders of those communities about what would happen when I came back. And I was given a lot of blessings to talk about these things and to share my personal experience of it, to share their stories, because I'm come from an academic background. Like, come on, I had to fight myself a lot. You're a volunteerist, you're colonial, you're doing the same things. I am so conscious, like hyper conscious. I studied cultural anthropology, which is one of the most violent things that ever happened to the planet. Like, doing anthropology is just self-crit after self-crit, continuing to try to step back as much as you can. I mean, you can never be objective, but to always be transparent about your positionality. Sometimes things are just more nuanced on the grounds I didn't expect. I laugh at people who go to other countries and think that they're just being there is helping. You know, I'll call bullshit on that any day. But at the same time, when people ask me what my role in the camps was, technically I was doing a lot, keeping busy, lending a hand in certain things, but that could have been anyone's hand. So the part where I was actually in my positionality as an American, as a Filipino American, as a politicized American, as someone who has a background in education, as someone who has a background in working with like at-risk youth, like all of these things about my life kind of came together that in this very specific context just happened to meet some needs. That's the only reason why it worked. And if it hadn't worked, it would have left. I had to learn basic shit about everyday exchange and social norm and culture before I could even relate to anyone. My only expectation that I had is to literally be a tool, because that's what we do on Expo. We see firsthand, we listen to the people from their own perspectives, we hear their ideas, we ask them what we can do for them when we go back to the States. That's the point, collecting information to then bring back to enhance the struggle here. I didn't know that I was going to end up connecting with the students. The way that I existed in evacuation, it wasn't hierarchy, it wasn't a certain kind of dynamic. Like, I just actually integrated. A lot of my everyday life with the Lumans was just like a lot of bullshitting, a lot of inside jokes, a lot of pranks. And then after a while of knowing people, because I was there so long, them on their own time, in their own way, opening up to me, that is actually how I was able to learn as much as I did. Like, even though you can have such strong collective life, you can still be an empowered, thriving, unique individual living in that context. And I saw that, you know, not everyone thinks the same, they're not brainwashed. You can have communism in a sense, like local communism, without sacrificing the self. Like, we've been conditioned here to think about what individualism is. That's not working here. The reason why they've survived this long is because of the principles of selflessness and community and collectivism. And it's not just idealism of indigeneity, it's like that is sustainable humanity. That is how you survive on this planet. The individualisms of this country that are manufactured by capitalist like values aren't meant to empower us. They're meant to disempower us. When I think of resistance, I always think of the shit that's like they never wanted to happen. Uncle Sam never wanted Phil Am's, like, first gen, second gen, like whatever, to be Filipino. Only my father's Filipino. He moved here very young. I wasn't raised with the language. All these things, right? Why am I in Mindanao? Why am I like involved? Why do I know what's up with like the Civil War in the South? Why do I care about the indigenous peoples when I'm already removed from the motherland? That's a threat that Phil Am's identifying with the motherland. That Phil Am's are returning to the motherland politically conscious. They're scared of that. Filipino identity to me is resistance before anything. It's resistance and revolt, because as much as the textbooks will say that everything happened because Filipino culture is passive and because Filipinos are too nice and all these things, like, what? We're constantly killing the colonizer. That is the history, or else we would still be here. It makes all the sense in the world to me that the Luman struggle is your struggle. This fight should be the fight of every single Filipino and every single Filipino in diaspora. Everything is so connected. Me reclaiming Filipino identity, finally allowing myself after most of my life to like just say like, yeah, I'm Filipina. And even though I don't speak the language, even though all these things that like are, white people have this like list that I need to mark, like I can't mark all of these things, I don't speak the language, all these things, like so I'm not really Filipina. I can't really say that. When I finally was like, fuck that, I am, and I want to know what's up with it. And wait a minute, I'm empowered by that. And wait a minute, I'm so empowered by that that I'm not satisfied. I want to be a part of the resistance. Like, how can you say that you love your country if that doesn't immediately involve the indigenous peoples? Then what do you love? What is the Philippines without the indigenous peoples? Like what? Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. To be patriotic as a Filipino means to defend the Lumans. And to love your country means to defend the Lumans. To take pride in the natural environment means defending the Lumans. All of it. And the Lumans don't separate themselves from the Filipino masses. They very much are patriotic. They salute to the Philippine flag every morning. They're very proud, patriotic Filipinos, even though they know they're rejected. I heard one Lumad leader say that he's given up on Filipinos accepting him as a Filipino. That's why their focus now is international solidarity. When you look at the history of the Philippines and how the colonizer, whoever was filling, the colonizer's boots at the time, used that divide and conquer strategy. And I see that still very much at play on the grounds in Mindanao. What's happening to them isn't new. What's happening to them is what has always happened in the Philippines. This is just the newest wave of it. None of us witnessed, any of the waves of colonization and the different waves of different violence in different communities, because it also varied from island to island. None of us witnessed that. They want us to not remember that, and they want there to be no history of that. I would always frame the discussion around differentiating the uncolonized from the colonized. I don't attribute blame to those who were colonized. Colonization was done to a people in the Philippines and in diaspora. First recognizing that even those who are still colonized in the Philippines, which is all Filipinos except for these indigenous communities who are living the indigenous life. So then how can you decolonize self while recognizing that you can never really return to indigeneity in the way that people are currently existing as indigenous because that's all they've ever been? For me, my family is from generally Metro Manila area, right? For me to reclaim that identity, reclaim those roots, return to the indigenous. What are we each referring to when we say indigeneity? Returning to our roots. What are roots? What does that mean? Just literally knowing where on what side of the river your family grew up? Does that mean knowing about animism? Does that mean knowing the myths? It is very harmful for Phil-Ams to use words like indigenous in a less specific context. It's harmful because it's erasure. It is very important that we identify strongly with pre-colonial Philippines, because that itself is resistance, and we did lose a lot of aspects of the culture on a massive scale. As long as that's recognized, I feel like that's work being done. Nothing is static on this planet. In order for something to literally survive that long, would have to be dynamic and fluid and adaptable. Isn't the point of democracy in the US progress, and capitalism is progress? What the fuck? Opposite. It's actually failing, and indigeneity is actual progress. The whole world benefits from preserving indigenous culture.